I feel like every few months I end up making a video about how Hollywood has lost the plot, or the MCU fell off, and so on and so forth, but it would probably help if Hollywood wouldn't give us so much material to work with. It's kind of sad, but they honestly brought this on themselves. It's definitely been an interesting year for Hollywood. We had some major box office successes that managed to reach $1 billion and over, like the Mario Brothers movie or the Barbie movie, but the vast majority of blockbusters have either underperformed or straight up flopped. I am worried that Hollywood will take the wrong lessons from their successes and failures. For example, the success of Barbie has led Mattel to say that they're going to produce an entire cinematic universe based off their properties. Mattel's CEO made a recent statement saying, "What you saw around the Barbie movie was, we believe, a template, a case study, an opportunity to truly understand the value and appeal that our brands have, the cultural resonance, and, importantly, our ability to execute these projects both creatively and commercially." There are many reasons why Barbie ended up being as successful as it was. Barbie has huge brand recognition that spans multiple generations, bigger than a lot of the other brands they were talking about making movies about, but I don't think name recognition alone is enough to get people in seats. Like, for example, the latest Indiana Jones movie, despite its name recognition and budget. On top of the name recognition, Barbie also was bright and colorful, something that's been lacking particularly in live-action Hollywood movies recently. They actually built practical sets for the Barbie movie, which looked incredible. Many movies today rely heavily on CGI, which is also contributing to them being more dark. Hollywood will often make their movies darker in an attempt to hide the not-so-convincing special effects, which ends up making movies look muddy and frankly crummy. Even movies that have astronomical budgets and a lot of resources behind them. Giving the Barbie movie colorful practical sets gave it a unique look, and I think it's something that audiences have been craving after all the overblown CGI fests we've been getting. Not to mention juxtaposing it against Oppenheimer, a historic biopic about the atomic bomb, was genius. The meme potential ended up getting both films way more attention, actively encouraging a double feature of the two films. I don't know if the studios intended for them to come out on the same day, but it definitely worked out in their favor. I think it shows how powerful a good marketing campaign really is. But now Mattel is risking adding to the pile of cinematic universes that have ultimately underperformed, and I'm worried they're just going to copy what they did with Barbie and assume it's going to work on all these other properties too, like what they seem to be doing with Barney the dinosaur. Originally they said the movie would be dark and have a heavy focus on millennial angst, but they seem to have softened that tone according to a recent article, since they got quite a bit of backlash for it. Granted, it doesn't seem like they've really changed the idea too much, just saying that it's still too early to tell exactly what it's going to be about, specifying that it won't be an odd movie, but it's still going to play for adults, and focus on a level of disenchantment within the generation. So basically exactly what they were saying, just trying to be a little nicer about it, I guess. Barbie had a heavy emphasis on politics and had adult humor, so maybe they thought putting that in something like Barney the dinosaur would also be a good idea. The thing is, the advertising around the Barbie movie didn't focus on the patriarchy aspect at all, so maybe putting such a heavy focus on the political aspect of the Barney movie isn't the best idea, and maybe Mattel shouldn't put all their eggs in that basket. The last thing a company would want is to get too ahead of themselves, and Mattel is talking about putting out over 50 movies. And cinematic universes are kind of hard to pull off. We've seen quite a few of them fail. Even Marvel, the undisputed king of cinematic universes that so many other companies were trying to copy, has been floundering. They clearly had no plan after Endgame, and I think they just assumed that people would watch anything under the Marvel brand, which is probably what Mattel is thinking too. I think the MCU could have still kept going strong. They have a huge back catalog covering decades that they can pull from, but they flooded the market with all this content, and it feels like the quality has seriously suffered over the years. This is caused by a number of factors behind the scenes. First of all, they're releasing a slew of content all at once, almost like they're treating the MCU like some kind of content farm. The first few phases of Marvel only released a few movies over the course of multiple years, but the amount of content released has ballooned in recent years. All of the films and phase leading up to a big event used to be, well, a big event. But now it just kind of feels tiring, like homework. Take The Marvels coming out this November. It's a sequel to Captain Marvel that came out in 2019, except you can't just watch that movie in order to understand what's going on this time around. You also have to watch multiple Disney Plus shows, and it's just getting to be too much, too excessive. They keep throwing new characters at us without giving them enough time to really get established and breathe. Like the Eternals gave us 9 new characters and I honestly don't care about any of them. And even though there's all this content that's supposed to build on top of each other to lead into one major event, it ultimately feels kinda disconnected. Like what happens in one movie or show doesn't really affect the rest of the universe, even though it really should. And I think a large portion of the problem is that people behind the scenes aren't really being that efficient and are probably focusing more on the bottom line, to the point where they're not really communicating and they're not researching what came before, whether it's the source material from the comics or even the shows and movies that are supposed to lead directly into their movies. For example, people were speculating that Mephisto would show up in WandaVision, and it seemed like the show was setting up for that, but it turns out the writers had never even heard of Mephisto, and anything that seemed like a clue was completely coincidental. And then the people behind Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, a film that WandaVision is supposed to lead into, didn't actually watch WandaVision. Gee, I wonder why things are going so badly. They are making efforts to course correct now, but I worry it might be too little too late. They're cutting back on the amount of content they release for Disney Plus, since flooding the platform hasn't really been paying off for them. There's also been some pretty major shakeups, like Kevin Feige firing the writers' room for Daredevil Born Again, so hopefully that means they're taking the writing pretty seriously. The alleged plan for Daredevil Born Again is definitely something. Apparently Matt retired from vigilantism and Kingpin became the mayor, which is definitely a choice, and one that obviously did not work out for them. We'll have to see if the new direction they're going in will be good for the show, and more importantly the MCU overall. But while they're able to do a hard reset on Daredevil Born Again, I feel like they've already made missteps with the story of the MCU so far, like Kang being the new big bad of the series. In my opinion, he doesn't really hold a candle to Thanos. I mean, we've already seen him be defeated. Endgame was pretty bombastic. Maybe instead of having another big bad who's this time going after the multiverse instead of half of the population of the universe, they could have slowed down a little bit. They made the Skrulls sympathetic here, but maybe they could have benefited from the Skrull invasion. Have a story based off mystery and intrigue, instead of just throwing new concepts and characters at us. Secret Invasion probably could have been an Avengers movie instead of whatever the Disney Plus show was supposed to be.
Where are the Avengers?
I also hope they'll relax a bit on what characters can interact with each other. Like how I said in a previous video, they wouldn't let Doctor Strange be in WandaVision, even though he was originally planned to appear, because they were worried he would upstage Wanda, and as a white man that's not acceptable, which is pretty odd. It would only be natural for Steven to show up here. After all, she had a major role in his sequel. But if they were really so concerned about his race, maybe they could have used one of the other sorcerers who were men of color? You know, like Wong? It would have made more sense than what he was doing in She-Hulk. It would be great if the MCU can recapture its former glory. It'll probably take a while though, but I doubt they'll give up the MCU anytime soon anyway, so hopefully the only place it can go is up. Do you guys think they'll be able to turn things around? Or do you think it's not enough, and the best of the MCU is long behind us? Do you think Mattel will be able to keep up the momentum from the Barbie movie? Let me know in the comments below, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching everyone, I really appreciate it. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to our members: Tyrant Carnivore, Shiny Orc Boy, The Rabbit Mancer, General Bolivar, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, Gabby Hime, Verdant Range, JVR, Hussyman42, Nixel, Phil C, Taylor Ramirez, Caleb Nelson, Dakari the Professor, Equestron, Norman Sweetcream, Way Beyond Coincidence, Garcia XV Legend, Hunter Rose, 80s Nostalgia Guy, Felix Bam, Soundboy00, Owen Wildish, Kitsune Fiora, Lucas Geist, J Draws, Blue Spirit, Bandito Bane, Meowsers, Sky, Jin KZ, Philip, Stutania, Isaac Martinez, and Lil. Thank you all so much for your support, we really appreciate it. If you'd like to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video and like our content, you can leave a like on the video and subscribe, and that part's free. We also have Buy Me Coffee if you want to support us that way. Thanks again for watching everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.